Jesse here. Hope you're doing fantastic. Hey, I want to talk a little bit about the differences between lease options and contract for deed in this video. Again, lease options sometimes are referred to as lease to own, lease with option to buy, rent to own, and there's some, little differences between them, but for the most part, we're talking the same thing. Okay. Now, on the other hand, we're talking contract for deed. Sometimes people call it land contract. And another way of saying that is owner financing or seller financing. But specifically, we're going to talk about contract for deed, which is also called land contract in a lot of places, versus a lease option, a lease with an option to buy. Okay. So now one of the first questions you have to ask yourself when you're looking at these different strategies is, where do you fall in the conversation? So this video is intended for people who are working with us in our slow flip program as an investor. So if you're an investor, or if I'm the investor, that means I'm selling the property. Now, if you're buying it, it's sometimes different advantages or disadvantages because it kind of depends on what side of the line you're on. Okay. So if you're an investor and you are selling a property on a lease option or a contract for deed, here are some of the differences. Okay. So number one, a contract for deed, you are retaining legal title, but you're giving equitable title to the buyer. So the buyer, if you pull up on tax records and you pull them up on online, and you look at the county records of who the taxpayer is, you're going to typically see that the contract for deed buyer is listed as the taxpayer. It's their responsibility to pay taxes on the property and to keep homeowners insurance on the property. And it's essentially like they bought it. It's like they own the property. And they get to, for the most part, do what they want to do on the home. Now, there's definitely some circumstances where that changes. Okay. So for example, you can say, if you're selling the property on a contract for deed, you can say, I don't want the buyers to spend more than $5,000 worth of repairs and expenses on the property without letting me know. So I can approve it and they can get my permission, or 10,000 or 2,000 or whatever that amount is that you want to do. Okay. So that's something you can decide to negotiate, but you are basically still keeping legal title. So you still own the property, but they kind of also own it. So when I was going through real estate school back in the day, our instructor kind of said, usually imagine like a bundle of sticks. When you are selling a home to someone, the deed transfers, right? From your bundle of sticks, you give the buyer all the bundle of sticks. Now they have all the bundle of sticks and they have the deed. They own it and you sold it. You don't have it anymore. Well, on a contract for deed, aka land contract, it's kind of in the middle. So imagine if you take half of that bundle and you give the buyer half of the sticks. You still have some sticks and they have some of the sticks. That's kind of what it's like. So you have legal ownership, but they have equitable ownership in the property. Okay. Now on a lease option, rent to own, rent with option to buy. Okay. That is different. They do not have any legal ownership in the property. Okay. They have two things. They have a lease. They are a tenant. They're renting it. They have a lease agreement with you, and they have an option agreement. They have the option to buy. Now, an option is a unilateral contract. Okay. Which that means it's one-sided. So they have the option to buy the home for a specific time and a specific dollar amount. The option usually 9 times out of 10, isn't open-ended that goes forever. You have to have an end date, a deadline. So our deadlines are typically past the point where we know that they should be able to get financing. Okay. So if we think they can get financing in roughly 1 year from now, we want to give them more time than that, right? So we want to give them like 2 years to be able to get it done, just because, hey, stuff happens, right? Life happens. Maybe they need more time. Maybe, something causes them to just need extra time. So if we think they need 2 years, we're going to give them 3 years to get this done. Okay. So, but there's a deadline and then there's a price. So we're going to say your price that you can buy this property is X up until this date. Okay. Now, it goes past that deadline, technically the option is now void. Okay. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing is, if they don't want to buy, they don't have to buy. So you can't make them buy it. Okay. They can just say, no, thanks. We're going to just move on and we don't want this property anymore. But the way we put our deals together is the option fee they pay you up front, that is non-refundable. So that money does not come back to them if they change their mind. So you would get that money as the investor and you would keep the property. And now you have the option fee they put down up front, you have the property, and now you say, Jesse, what's next? Well, of course, we always have a number of folks coming, through our doors that are looking for home ownership opportunities, and we would help you with that, of course, to find somebody that'd be a great fit for that property that still wants it. Okay, so there's a number of different exit strategies that you can use if that were to happen. Okay, so but that's one of the biggest differences is ownership. So who owns it and who doesn't. So on a lease option, you are a landlord. You're still definitely a landlord, and they are the tenant. They have tenant rights, and you have landlord rights and landlord responsibilities. Okay, but with the lease option and the rent to own program that we do with the slow flip, our tenant buyers know that really this is going to be their home, right? It's going to be their home. As long as they just do what they have to do and they buy it on time, they should be the ones that this is going to be their property. And so they're taking usually much better care of it than a normal renter. Again, I'm using generalities, okay? It could definitely go any direction, but I would say the majority of rent-owned buyers, they're treating it like their own home. They're treating it better than a rental. They're taking care of it because it's going to be their place. So they're usually fixing and maintaining and updating and repairing a lot of the things because it's going to be their house, okay? It's not the same situation typically where a normal tenant who has no desire or interest in owning the home ever and just wants to be a landlord and doesn't want any responsibility, they're calling you for everything, right? This is a totally different story. So with that said, on a contract for deed, if you want to let me phrase it this way. If you don't want to have any responsibilities, right? I don't want to have to fix anything. I don't want to have to repair anything. I want them to be 100% responsible for fixing, repairing, updating, maintaining the house. I don't want to deal with it. I just want to get money in every month, get paid on time until they pay me off in a couple years or a few years. Okay, well, really what you're saying is you want to do a contract for deed or land contract, because in that regard, you have sold the property to them on seller financing, on owner financing. Okay, so you are the bank to the buyer. Now, maybe you have the bank to pay. So there's the bank that gets paid from you every month, and then you get paid from the buyer every month. Okay, but you're the bank to them. In that situation, it is, again, now this varies sometimes by state and state law. I'm not giving any legal advice here. Definitely consult with your own real estate attorney in your area, in your market, in your state. But for the most part, contract for deed, land contract, they have purchased it. They just don't fully own it or completely have the deed yet until they pay you off. And of course, you have to pay the bank off. So you pay the bank off, and then you get the deed, and then you give it to them. Okay, so that's kind of how that works. As far as ownership, as far as repairs and maintenance, there's a lot that goes into this. Okay, so that's one of the things. Let's talk taxes. Again, I'm not giving you tax advice. I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant. And again, I advise you to get your own tax advice from a tax professional, just like legal advice from a legal professional. But with a lease option or rent to own, again, you're a landlord and they are a tenant. They just have the option and the right to buy if they want to, when they want to, up until that deadline at that price, okay? So what that means is you still get the tax advantages of being an investor and a landlord. So oftentimes that can be depreciation, okay? And if they are buying the home from you after 12 months and a day, you're looking at long-term capital gains tax versus short-term capital gains tax. Big difference. So a lot of our investors love to do lease options because of the tax advantages that way, okay? Now again, we just talked about, well, what if you have to fix things? What if you have to repair things? What if the roof is bad, or what if it needs a brand new furnace or AC? Well, now we go back into, there's advantages and disadvantages of being a landlord versus selling it on, seller financing via a contract for deed or land contract. So you really have to kind of look at those and say, which one makes the most sense to me for what I'm looking for? There's the tax advantages, there's the headaches and hassles that go with it. And again, even on the regular rent to own, way fewer headaches and hassles than a normal landlord, way better. But with that said, you still have to be responsible for keeping the property in good repair, in good condition, and following the landlord rules and laws in your specific area. Okay, so that's another thing to think about there. As far as financing, so let's talk about financing and doing a lease option or contract for deed. Okay, now if you're going to get conventional financing, which means you're using a lender that sells it typically on the secondary market to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. You heard of those guys, right? As where most mortgages these days, they get kind of packaged up and bundled and sold on the secondary market. to those entities. Okay, if you're doing that, that's what most conventional loans are. All right. Now, when you do that, they're going to say that you can't transfer title out of your own name. Okay, there's this thing called the due on sale clause that you probably have heard of, and the due on sale clause says that they can, at their will. It doesn't mean they will, and it doesn't make this illegal. Okay, it just says that the lender could, if they want to, say you have to pay us all of the loan back immediately because you don't own the property anymore. You technically transferred the ownership out of your name into the name of someone else. We gave you the loan. We didn't give this person the loan. Well, that's what happens if you sell it on a contract for deed or land contract. You now gave equitable title over to the buyers. Okay, so the bank could do that. Just because they could doesn't mean they will. The bank wants to get paid. Okay, now again, I am giving zero guidance and advice and telling you to do one thing or another on this. I'm simply stating what I have heard, read, discussed with many professionals in the business. Banks want to get paid. They just want to get their monthly payments every month. They're not coming after people for this, but could it happen? Absolutely. Okay. So if that's something that concerns you, you might want to look at getting commercial financing. Now, commercial financing is usually more of a local lender, like a community bank or a credit union or just a business bank. It's where all the investors in your town go to do deals. Okay. It still could be a single family home, but it's a commercial loan. It still could be a duplex, triplex, fourplex, but it's a commercial loan. Now, that commercial lender, they don't have to follow all the same rules that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac do, because it's usually the bank's money and they're keeping the loan themselves in-house. That means it's their money. They don't sell it off. And so for them, it's kind of their rules. Well, here's the cool thing. If you go tell that loan officer, hey, look, I'm going to go buy this property at $200,000 at 9 a.m., but then I'm selling it an hour later for, let's say, $220,000 or $230,000, an hour later on a contract for deed to this person, okay, I'm going to still pay you every month what our agreement is, but they're also paying me and I'm cash flowing and making money. They're going to most likely, if you explain it right, are going to be cool with that. Now, if you said that to someone who's going to give you a conventional loan, they would deny your loan and cancel it on the spot. They'd say, wait a minute, you can't do that. You can't do that. That's not something we allow. The loan is dead. Like we're not making this happen anymore. Okay. So on a commercial loan, though, they oftentimes are okay with that and they're good with that and they know what you're doing. And so it's just different rules. Okay. So if you're wanting to do a lease option and a lease with option to buy, rent to own, you want to go that route, then you can really go either one, conventional lender or commercial. Okay. But if you're wanting to do a contract for deed or land contract, and that's what you prefer because of those advantages, then you might want to look at doing a commercial lender. And the commercial lenders, again, typically they like to have some sort of a relationship established with you or maybe with us and our team because they know what we're doing and how we do our business. And, they usually want to be in the area the property is in. Okay. So again, I can't say for all the time, but if you're just getting going with a brand new relationship, talking with a commercial lender, in Kansas and the property is in Florida, they might not want to do that. They want the property in their backyard. Okay. But if you've already done a number of deals with them and things are going well and, they see a track record, now they might say, yeah, cool, you can do Florida. So you just don't know. Okay. Again, we can help you with all of those options for getting lending and, for being kind of your guide and your coach and your consultant and your agent, depending on the state that you're in and the properties that we're in, of course, with helping you with all of this to make sure that you have all of the information to make an educated decision on the different ways you want to go between a lease option or a contract for deed. Now, this is just some of the bigger key points. There's more to it than that. But again, I'd love to help answer all your questions that you have on this. And so just, shoot me a message, email back, or happy to set up a call and we can go into it in more detail and help you with your slow flip journey. Thanks, and we'll talk to you soon. This is my world.